These folks do not like Madonna.
I would like this woman to tell me what family values are.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
They pounded pavement protesting what they call the Pied Piper of perversion.
Bestiality.
Shame!
Sadomasochism. Shame! Bondage.
Shame! Justify my love. Shame! 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 Burning.
The protest stretched for several blocks around Sunrise Mall.
Hi, I'm Madonna.
I know the moral majority is up in arms against me, but...
Congratulations.
The people, yes, consider it an achievement.
What did people in Venice, what did these Italians walking around think when they saw this woman floating by with the camera crew and the gondola ducking under the bridges?
Puta. That's what they thought. Some chick running around in her underwear?
I think controversy makes people think about things. And I don't necessarily want people to say, oh, you know, she's right, but only to challenge their own beliefs. In our society, a woman who is overtly sexual is considered a venomous bitch or someone to be feared. So what I like to do is sort of take the traditional sort of overtly sexual, like bimbo image and turn it around and say, well, yes, I can dress this way or I can behave this way, but I'm in charge. And, you know, I call the shots, or I know what I'm doing.
I think that sexuality is something that Americans would really rather just sweep up under the rug. And I think that if my video provokes an open discussion, you know, maybe the kids will go and ask their parents these questions, you know, if it provokes an open discussion about sex with their parents, I think this is a really good thing. Why are we willing to deal with the realities of violence and sexism, and why aren't we willing to deal with sexuality? Why? I mean, the networks won't even play ads on TV that are about condoms, about birth control, about practicing safe sex. We're pretending like we don't have a lot of teenagers that are having sex in the world right now. Why are we, you know, why are we subjecting ourselves to this kind of ignorance?
Look, I'll tell you what their answer is going to be to you. They're going to say, you know what, we really are concerned about these issues, and we really are concerned that our children understand them, but quite frankly, it is our job to instruct our children, and we don't want you on television in the kinds of ways that you're on television, giving those images to our children. Thanks anyway.
Well, guess what? They're not doing their job, because the teenage pregnancies in this country have reached you know, a highest high. I mean, we have sophomores in high school who are having their second babies already, okay? And the rate of AIDS is raising in the heterosexual community at a really frightening rate, okay? So why is that? These parents are not doing their jobs, you know? You know, I may be dressing like the typical bimbo, whatever, but I'm in charge. You know, I'm in charge of my fantasies. I put myself in these situations with men, you know, and everybody knows, you know, in terms of my image in the public, people don't think of me as a person who's not in charge of my career or my life, okay? And isn't that what feminism is all about? You know, equality for men and women, and aren't I in charge of my life, doing the things I want to do, making my own decisions?
In the 60s and 70s, there was a big feeling about sexual, like, freedom, and now there's not.
Because everyone's afraid. And I'm telling them not to be afraid.
The more people say, sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad, the more I want to say, no, it's not, no, it's not, no, it's not.
I understand that everyone wants to talk about the book a lot. You expected that, though, didn't you?
I expect anything at this point. You want to talk about the color of my underwear, we'll talk about the color of my underwear, whatever.
You think you have a dick in your brain, you don't need one between your legs.
Right.
So what does that mean to you, so that I can understand what that's all about?
Well, you know, it's basically, it's refuting the idea that, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, you just, you know, you have penis envy or whatever, you just wish you had a dick. And my answer is, I do. It's in my brain, because if a dick stands for masculinity and being aggressive and having balls or whatever, then it's all a state of mind anyways. You don't need the physical apparatus.
It's sort of in the vein of Anais Nin, but today, you know, and in my language. So I thought about that for a while, and then Stephen Meisel's photographer, who I work with all the time and who's a very good friend of mine, I've always been bugging him and saying, how come you never did a book? Because Herb Ritts did a book, and Bruce Weber did a book, and Helmut Newton. I mean, everyone's done a book, but Stephen never did. And he said, well,
you know, I don't know. And then finally he said, well, I'll do it if you do it with me. So we were trying to come up with ideas for what we would do for the book, and then we thought, well, maybe I would do this thing where I would take on all these different personas and change my hair and my clothes, and kind of in the vein of Cindy Sherman, who I've brought up before to people, where she just totally becomes someone different from picture to picture. So ultimately what happened is I combined both of those ideas. Anger fuels a lot of what I do. I'm angry about the sexism in this world. I'm angry about racism. I'm angry about homophobia. I'm angry about the injustices of life, and so I write about them.
Well, it's creating a great shock all around the world, but what's your reaction to their reaction?
Hypocrites, all of them.
But did you foresee that things would happen like this before when you were making it?
It happened exactly the way I thought it was going to happen. Everyone was going to pretend that they were disgusted by it, and everyone was going to buy it. I think sex is still a very taboo subject, and the only people that Americans feel comfortable with speaking out loud about it is men. I mean, women aren't traditionally very vocal about sexual politics, sexuality, eroticism, whatever.
And why did you talk about it, knowing that here in the United States they wouldn't like it?
Why? Because I think it should change. I think it should be as commonplace for a woman to talk about sex and be free about expressing her sexual fantasies or her sexuality as men are. What did you get out of it?
I got a fright.
You got a what?
I got a fright.
You got afraid?
Well, a fright at what was there, yeah.
Why?
I'd never seen the likes of it.
You have so.
I know.
Oh, please. You haven't gone to you've never read Playboy magazine or Penthouse or anything like that?
Yes, but it was different with you.
Why?
Well, there was the picture of you astride the mirror, masturbating. I thought that was horrible.
Why?
It just strikes me as horrible.
I think that people's reaction to specific situations in the book was much more a reflection of that person than me. I mean, you were scared by that picture. What does that mean? Are you frightened of a woman that can turn herself on? Are you frightened of a woman who is not afraid to look at her genitals in the mirror? Does that frighten you?
A little bit, yes. Yes, that's right.
Why?
Oh, I don't know why. I want to hear about you, not me. I'm happy to talk about me, but why?
I'd rather talk about you.
It was about pushing the boundaries, because from my perspective, up until that point, you always heard about sexual fantasies, and you always saw women objectified sexually, but always from a man's point of view. And I thought it was about time that it came from a woman's point of view.
Why do you think there is less, is this true, actually, I would say, if you think, why do you think there is less erotic art being created by women than men? Do we think that? And
women were never allowed to own it.
Yes.
Until recently.
Own our sexuality.
Yeah.
And if we do, we are punished.
Punished. People hate you for it. And you were owning your sexuality, and you were young and gorgeous, and that was a no-no. Mae West, that was the only one before you, right? Mae West, yeah. And you never understood for a minute why people were so outraged.
Yeah, but there are many more of us who were very inspired by that, and then it created, for many of us, our own personal liberation. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
When I first started writing songs, I didn't think in a gender-specific way. I didn't think about feminism. I just wanted to be an artist. I was, of course, inspired by Debbie Harry and Chrissie Hynde and Aretha Franklin, but my real muse was David Bowie. He embodied male and female spirit, and that suited me just fine. He made me think there were no rules. But I was wrong. There are no rules if you're a boy. If you're a girl, you have to play the game. What is that game? You are allowed to be pretty and cute and sexy, but don't act too smart. Don't have an opinion. Don't have an opinion that is out of line with the status quo, at least. You are allowed to be objectified by men and dress like a slut, but don't own your sluttiness. And do not, I repeat, do not share your own sexual fantasies with the world.